Nervous? True. Very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am. This disease has sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all, is my sense of hearing so acute. I hear all things in heaven and in earth. I hear many things in hell. How then am I mad? Watch how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how the idea first entered my mind. But once it had, it haunted me day in and day out. Object, there was none. Passion, there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me, never given me insult. I was never kinder to the old man than the whole week before I killed him. I think it was his eye. Yes, he had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye with the film over it. Every time it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. So, by degrees, very, very gradually, I made up my mind that I would take the life of the old man, thus ridding myself of the eye forever. Now, this is the point where you fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. You should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight I went to work. Every night, about midnight, I would turn the latch to the old man's room, carefully, and then open it. Oh, so gently. Then, when I had sufficient enough space for my face, I would put in a dark lantern, all closed so that no light would shine through. And then I thrust my head in. Then I undid the lantern, cautiously, oh so cautiously, because the hinges creaked. I undid the lantern just enough so that there was a thin ray of light that landed upon the vulture eye. I did this for 7 long nights, every night at about midnight. But I always found the eye to be closed, which made it impossible for me to do my work, as it wasn't the old man that vexed me, but this evil eye. On the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious when opening the door. The minute hand on a clock moves faster than did mine. Never before that night have I felt the full extent of my own power. I was pushing on it, steadily, so steadily. I had my head in, I was about to open the lantern, but my hand slipped on the tin fastening, and the old man sprung out of his bed, crying out.
Who's there?
I kept quiet, still. For a whole hour I said nothing. I did not move a muscle. And in the meantime, I did not hear the old man lie down. He was listening. He was doing as I had done. He was listening to the death watches in the walls. When I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing the old man lie down, I resolved to open a very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until, at the length of a simple, dim ray, the width of a spider's web, landed upon the eye. It was wide open, and I fell furious as I gazed upon it. Now, I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, like the ticking of a watch enveloped in cotton. Now, I knew this sound very well. It was the beating of the old man's heartbeat. It increased my fury, just as the beating of a drum stimulates a soldier into courage. The beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst. Now a new anxiety had seized me. The sound must be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. I threw open the lantern and leaped upon him. The old man shrieked once, only once. In an instant, I pulled the bed sheets high and over his gaping mouth. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. At length, it ceased. The old man was dead. I pulled back the sheets and examined the corpse. Yes, he was dead. I put my hand over the heart. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would bother me no more. When I had made an end to these efforts, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. And as the morning bell struck, there came a knocking at the door. I opened the door with a light heart, for what had I now to fear? In came 2 detectives. There had been a shriek heard by the neighbors in the night, and suspicion of foul play had been aroused. I smiled, for what had I to fear? I bade them welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man, I mentioned, was absent in the country. The officers were satisfied. My mannerisms had convinced them, and I was singularly at ease. They sat as I answered cheerily and spoke of familiar things. But before long, I felt myself growing pale and wishing them gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears. But they still sat and chatted. No doubt I grew very pale. Yet the sound increased. It was a low, dull, quick sound, like the sound a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, but the officers noticed not. Why would they not be gone? Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore. But the noise arose over all and continually increased. It grew louder. And still the officers just sat and chatted cheerily and smiled. Was it possible they heard not? Almighty God, no, they heard. They suspected. They knew. They were making a mockery out of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything could be more tolerable than this derision. I could bear their hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt I must scream or die. And again, louder. Villains! Dissemble no more. I admit to the deed. Tear up the planks. Here. It is the beating of his hideous heart.